Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us. Hey everyone.
Welcome back, episode 56 of the podcast.
Amazing. 56. We're now into January and loving the month of January. I used to not like the month of January, to be honest, but as I get older, I start to like it more. It's because my birthday's in January, and I don't know, growing up, I was always like, hey, how close my birthday is to Christmas. Yours is even closer to Christmas, so I'm sure you understand.
I do. I never, you know what, the thing that kind of sucks about having your birthday so close to at least, you know, Christmas, because we celebrate Christmas, but people are also off at that time, right? And I never got my birthday announced on the PA system at school.
I was just going to say that because you and my husband share the same birthday, 10 years apart. But he always said, you know, like I never got like balloons on my locker. No. I was never at school during my birthday.
It sucks. It sucks because and then you're asking people to kind of, you know, as you get older, you're asking people, hey, let's go to a bar December 28th. Well, it's flipping snowing out and it's not great. Go out and it's not good weather and everybody's usually busy. But I've gotten as I got older, I've grown to really love December 28th a little bit more, my birthday a little bit more, because I kind of like just staying in. So
yeah. It's funny because somebody just recently asked, I can't remember what Facebook group it was in, like a Facebook group that I belong to. I actually think it was like an ADHD like women group, because I am an ADHDer, and somebody was asking about like one thing that comes with ADHD often is what's called RSD, which is rejection sensitivity. I can't remember what the D stands for, but it's about being extra sensitive to rejection or like perceived rejection. And so a lot of people in that group were kind of talking about birthdays and how they've never really liked their birthday because of that, because it's almost like a buildup where you think everybody else is having way more fun on their birthday, or it's supposed to be something more than it is, or maybe it's not acknowledged as much as you think it should be, or maybe like there's expectations around it, right? And it like never lives up to the expectations. And I've always felt that way about my birthday. So mine is the 9th. So mine is tomorrow.
Yes. Happy early birthday. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. And happy belated birthday to Scott.
And to you.
Didn't even say happy belated birthday on the last episode, so.
Well, we said happy birthday to you.
To me, but not Scott. Poor Scott. He's the one editing all this stuff. Gotta get
exactly. It's interesting we're talking about birthdays too, because next week we have a treat in store for you, because we're going to talk about numerology, which does take into account your birthday. So
I'm excited for that,
for what's to come. But I don't know. I've never really liked it. I never really liked my birthday. I was also like the only winter baby in like the whole family, like extended family even. So it's interesting because then I met my husband. I think we sometimes say like we created, and he's the only winter baby too, right, in his family. So it's like we created our own little like winter baby family, because we met in January. Like our first date was January. Yeah. We got engaged in January.
Yeah.
My birthday, his birthday is right before that. And then we had other 3 kids too, are February babies. So it's like we created our new little February baby cocoon.
Yeah.
Or sorry,
winter babies.
Yeah. So it's become more special. But I've just learned, I don't know, I think it comes with age partly.
Yeah.
But also it really kind of hit home a bit more when my dad passed away suddenly. So it will be 5 years this month.
Wow.
Since he's passed away. And as many of the listeners know, his passing was kind of like that event that really helped me see that I was a medium. So with his passing, like he was only like just turned 60. Like he had only been 60 for a few months, which is really young. The closer I get to those ages, the more I see how young that is.
Yeah.
And it's made me think totally differently about aging, about birthdays, about celebrating oneself. I used to be terrified of aging. I used to be I hated my birthday because it meant another year has gone by, and what did I do with it? It's like 1 year closer to the end, like that
Yeah,
was my
yeah,
mindset. And
yeah.
then I also had, like rejection sensitivity around like, well, it seems like everybody else has all this hoopla and mine feels like it just goes by as another day. And I always carried that with me too. But I've also realized that that sense of like belonging and
Mm.
celebration, like, yes, it can come from other people, but the real fulfilling part of that is when you can do that for yourself.
Yeah,
And I've learned how
yeah.
to do that for myself.
Yes.
So I celebrate myself. So like one thing that I learned to do, like the year I turned 40, rather than hoping that somebody reads my mind about what I would like,
Mm-hmm.
I like said, this is what I'd like.
Yes.
And it was actually really appreciative because like appreciated by
Yeah.
somebody else because they're like, okay, cool.
Great.
So like
Yeah.
I all I asked for was an ice cream cake, a bottle of champagne, and some sushi. So
Mm-hmm.
that did
What a
happen.
great combination, Amy.
I'm turning 40, like this is what I want. And then I booked myself
Yeah.
into the spa because I had never been to a spa before. So I had like an
Mm.
hour massage. I had my toes done, my nails done, and I was like,
Yes.
but I did it for myself, and like I didn't feel weird doing it for myself. It was kind of like it's about damn time I do this for myself,
It's about damn time.
I was thinking of that
Shout
too.
out, Lizzo.
So it kind of was like, you know what? This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it. Like
I'm doing that, or I did that,
did that
past
before.
tense, for my birthday.
Right.
I scheduled my makeup trial to be on, for the makeup trial
Like
that you
a
do for
treat.
your wedding, for the makeup artist to be on my birthday. And then I was like, you know what, Alex, we're gonna go out for dinner.
Yeah.
And I want to get my hair done too. So I've also scheduled a haircut that
Why
morning.
not? Good.
Then I'm gonna get my makeup done, and it's gonna be great.
It's about being proactive
Yeah.
and like kind of, but about it's learning to celebrate yourself, which is something that I feel I don't know. I feel like it does kind of get easier with age
Mm,
sometimes. I
yeah.
don't know if everybody feels that way, but I
Yeah.
have
Well,
felt
and when
it.
you're a kid too, like when you're younger, you're kind of seeing everybody celebrating everybody else's, you know what I mean, birthday, or you're doing something, or there's a lead up to it,
Yes.
right? Whereas during the holidays, or if there's something even going on, right? When
It
people
feels like
are,
an afterthought
it's,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
I know.
But
Yeah. Even if it's not, like even if it's not, it's like this perception of like, oh,
yeah, so I don't know what
But
it
I
is.
but that's also like FOMO, right? Because I feel like FOMO, for those of you who don't know, is fear of missing out. Um, the thing that I've learned from like connecting to all the people that have connected to energetically, like when you connect to somebody energetically, as we do in our work, like energy doesn't lie, right? So it's not to say that we know everything about a person or we can read their mind, but like
Oh God, yeah,
we get a
can't.
general essence of a person's energy, right?
Yeah.
Um, the thing that I've seen time and time again, and it's given me a lot of comfort actually in my life, is that we think everybody else has it all figured out, or everybody is like gloriously happy all the time and they fit in and they feel like they belong, but like really we're all the same. And I don't think that any of us really feel like maybe we're attaining what society or what the status quo feels like we should be at a certain time, or like what we should be or what we should
Yeah.
accomplish. And I think about like high school times and things like that now that I have high schoolers, and I know like all the things that come with that age group, and I'm just like, you think that everybody else is super popular and super happy and we're doing all these fun things, and maybe there are certain people that are doing that, but everybody, I can promise you, is struggling in some way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just our perception of it.
Yeah.
So I've learned that like I always go down the rabbit hole with this when I think about the status quo, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think about, okay, so the more people I connect to in a vulnerable way,
Mm-hmm.
the more I realize that regardless of their background, there is some sort of feeling of inadequacy, insecurity.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't hit this benchmark or this marker that status quo has told me that I should.
Yes.
Right. And then I get into like, well, what is the status quo and who created it if nobody is living up to it? It's like this barometer that like nobody can ever, right? So something that I kind of interpreted from my guides when I was kind of contemplating this question is that it's kind of like a purposeful thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense it's like, how can you learn to be so you that even in like when somebody is stacking rules up and things around you of like goals you need to hit, you can still be you at the
Yeah.
end of it. Like, how can you move through that pressure and still be
Be
you?
you.
So that's like the ultimate goal.
Yes.
Right. So in a
Yeah.
sense, I feel like all those things are kind of like purposeful. Like, hey, can you conform? Can you be like everybody else? And then we struggle. We all struggle with like, but I'm not, but I can't.
Yeah. And don't you
And then
see that when we're sorry, you keep
no,
going.
no, go ahead. I was gonna say, like, then we get to some kind of point
Yeah.
in our lives where, and often it kind of comes around mid-age. It doesn't have to, but it just often does, where all of a sudden it's like,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and then we reclaim ourselves, or we learn who we are
Yeah.
in the first place,
Yes.
right? And then we take our power back. And that's why my mindset has totally changed around aging.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every year is a gift. Every year I'm above ground. Like, hallelujah, thank God. Like, I'm so happy. I don't give a crap anymore about if I gained a couple pounds, or if I getting some gray sparkles, or if I have wrinkles. I'm just like, I just looked down, it was 11:11 that we're
We're
recording.
recording. I was looking at the time. I was like, it's not 11, but yeah,
No,
that we're
no,
recording. Yeah.
how long we've been talking was when I said that. So, I think what like I feel like that's part of the guidance of January for whatever reason. I just feel like it's like a real month of, and you're going to talk a little bit more about January, the
Mm-hmm.
essence of January. But for me, it's like, this is what it is. What are we going to do about it? What just happened?
Amy, what is with your stairway? So
Because there's somebody behind me all the time, isn't there?
I
I feel like there is.
I'm like, if you were watching this on YouTube, you just saw my face because it it so it was a orb, but it almost looked like it was trying to manifest into
Oh, into something.
because it kind of freaked me out because it was so slow and the way that it was like you have
It
to
was
go
sauntering down the
it
stairs.
was so
I didn't
like
see it, but like I'm guessing.
zigzagging, but it like made like a trail. It left like a little trail. I don't. You've got to. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like
like that.
I like was like I don't know what's going on. Like I'm getting goosebumps.
There's something going on in my well, you know this. It happens all the time in our podcast. There's something going on in this office.
We've got to.
Yeah.
I've got to come over and do a paranormal investigation on
Yes.
Amy's basement,
But it's very like
and it's
happy and
always that.
supportive. It's always here.
Yeah,
But do you remember once when you asked me a question and you were like, you said something and I was like, it's at my back, right? The energy's at my back. It always is. I always feel it. Yeah.
yeah, because it's like always coming down the stairs.
They're not scary. It's like, it's nice.
Yeah, it
It's
just feels
supportive. Yeah.
like people are popping in, but
They're like, she's going to church and we are listening. We
yeah,
are
yeah,
here
yeah.
for
We're
it.
here for it. Preach, preach. But I just it was slow. So I God, man, we gotta
Yeah.
see if we can
I'll
compile
see if
all the
Scott can do
orbs or
like one of those
something.
videos where he slows it down, and see if we can post it as
Yes,
like a
let
short.
me know what everybody thinks because it kind of freaked me out. I don't know if you've anyways.
Yeah.
Very big
You
sidebar.
were gonna say something though. I'm kind of done my thing.
It doesn't matter now. That orb just flew me. All I was gonna say was that when we're kids, I feel like we're truly ourselves in a way. And then
Mhm.
again, it's because we're taught by society. There's all these expectations. You have to be this age to have kids, or you got to be married by this age, or it's you have to act a certain way because you're this, or blah 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 bullshit bullshit bullshit.
Yep.
Pardon my French. And then as we get older, we just tend not to care anymore.
Can't carry it anymore. Yeah,
You know,
it's just too heavy.
yeah. So you're
Yeah.
as we kind of as we come into this life, we're great, and then it's like, oh, here's all these things that we're trying to learning to navigate, and then as we kind of move out, it's like I don't care anymore. It's I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I used to hear people say like, oh, once you get to a certain age, you're not going to want to go like youth. Yeah, I don't want to go back to my youth. Why do I want to be 20 again? Hell no, right? Because
No.
it's like it's just that transition period where you're sorting things out, you're learning stuff. So in hindsight, now that I am 43 tomorrow, I can see that yeah, like I don't want to move backwards.
No,
I'd only move backwards if I could take the wisdom that I have now there, but that's not possible, right? So like No, I'm quite happy to keep gaining a little bit more, wisdom and silver sparkles with every passing year
Yes,
because
every time I found a silver hair the other day, and this is,
I'm
sorry.
getting really silver. Right, I don't know if you can see
I
it, but
but
like,
I
like a
love it.
hair. Yeah,
A
yeah.
friend of mine has more grays in her hair, and we're around the same. I think she's only a year older than me,
Yeah,
and she's just embracing it. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do too.
I love it. You know what this reminds me of a little bit is I was listening to a podcast. It's funny because the synchronicities, right, with like just life and how the universe speaks to you and gives you signs. This name is keeps popping into my world, and I had never heard of this person before. But the name Deborah Silverman, right? So it's like it's popped up in like different podcasts I've
Yeah.
heard or like different things I've read online, and I'm like, and then the other day when I did that, I mentioned it in the last episode. I had done like a free lunchtime workshop. Call Up Aaron Reed was there and Colin Bedell, and it was all about astrology and your moon sign and how that's connected to like cord cutting and like energetically releasing things in 2023. She brought up Deborah Silverman because it's one of her really good friends. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, there's something about this.
yeah.
And something actually, a client of mine also was like, you're really interested in astrology, right? This was a couple weeks ago. And I said, yeah. And she said, my mom right now is taking Deborah Silverman's course. And I'm just like, okay, why does this name keep
Keep
repeating
coming
itself?
up.
Anyways, I put myself on her wait list for her course because I want to learn. But I listened to the most recent episode of Into the Wooniverse, which is Colette Baron Reed's podcast. If you haven't listened to it, it's
Ooh,
great.
okay.
I really, really like her. So the most recent episode, as of when we're recording today, which is pre Christmas, is with Deborah Silverman. And so Colette and Deborah are very good friends, actually, for like quite a long
Huh.
time. And she talks a bit about like just evolutionary astrology, which is what I'm very interested in. Emily, our guest
Yeah,
we
we
had
were
in a while
talked
ago,
about that.
talks about, yeah,
Yeah.
all about that. But she talks a bit about like exiting the Pisces age, which lasted, through the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
right? And where and how and why religion and the church and things like that were very important to that era,
Mm-hmm.
but that we are now in the age of Aquarius, quite literally. Let's dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, 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 dun. All right, right. We all know that song. We're now there, and how and why astrology supports what is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even to the sense of like people, it's not to say that church and religion is not important, but it does seem like the newer generations it's less of a pull, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how astrology, how the age of Aquarius supports that, and even to do with like gender and like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like male female, I don't care, like it doesn't make
Gender
any difference
fluidity,
anymore. And yeah,
binary. Yes.
yes, and like how actually astrology shows us why. And I thought it
Mm.
was the most interesting
Huh.
episode.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it to our listeners if you're interested at all in astrology, or hearing kind of, the truth of it. So she calls astrology medicine. And that's how I view it too. The more I learn about it, it's not just like a predictive, like fun thing to read in the newspaper. There's actually a lot of like bulk and
Bulk in
truth
there.
to it. And I think
I
it's
love
really, really
that.
cool. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
I don't remember why I wanted to bring that up, but I think it's because of the energy that we were feeling. And then last week we did the 2023 forecast, right?
Yes.
And how we both feel the 20s are kind of going to be a little bit chaotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're rebuilding our foundation. Shit is hitting the fan, like literally and
Yeah.
figuratively. All the stuff that we can't take where we're going is now
Yeah.
showing up and being released. And to get to this place where we are, so 2027 according to the gene keys, which we've talked about before, is when we enter a new era.
Mm-hmm.
We leave the kind of energy of community in the sense of like we're all building structures and things, right, which is
Right.
the industrial revolution,
Yeah.
and we're entering an era of the individual. So it doesn't mean that we're going to become more self-centered. What it means is we're going to be more individually focused.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be about, but what makes me happy, and then having the freedom and having the collective societal support to
Yeah.
engage in that. So it's more like, what if we just all broke down all these structures that did serve us well, but don't serve us anymore where we're going, and we just all focused on what makes us happy, and everybody supported everybody else in that.
What a
So
thought.
that's
Yeah.
what a thought, right? And that's what 2027 is ushering in, and it really
Mm.
fits in with our kind of timeline
You mean
of what
2023?
we No, 2027
Oh,
is when that
2027 is when it's going to
actually
happen.
will happen.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
But if you listen to last week's episode, we kind of brought through an energy of like 2023 is preparing. We're
Yeah.
preparing. We're preparing, right?
Yeah.
Because the next couple of years are going to be all about that.
Very
So
cool.
I thought that was
That is
interesting
really
too, and
cool.
how that plays in. And I do believe that she mentions 2027 as well in the episode. I can't remember the context, but I just wanted to recommend it to you guys if you're
Love
interested.
it. Love it.
Hmm.
Really
So let's
cool.
get into.
Well, that's a great segue. Segue. But we are talking about January symbolism.
Yeah,
So how fitting too, because we're gonna see how January, like the meaning behind January, the god it's named after, and that god's meaning.
yeah,
And also kind of talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions. So,
love
I
it.
yeah, don't know if it's a big thing for everybody else. Okay, but before we get into that, I'll just give you a little bit of a background about January. So, January is named, and by the way, I'm pulling this information from almanac.com. January is named after the Roman god Janus. Janus, yeah, known as the protector of gates and doorways, which is really interesting because if we looked back on that Kyle Gray card that we pulled, as we're ending 2023, it's literally a gateway.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Aaron's referring to last week's
To
episode,
last
the
week's,
forecast.
yes. If
Yeah.
you haven't listened to that, go back, listen to that episode. It's pretty cool. All the
Yeah.
connections.
That's very cool.
So it's known as the protector for gates and doorways, symbolizes beginnings and endings. It's again like how fitting. Like January is literally about to, we're ending almost that winter, right? We're kind of maybe not really, but endings and beginnings. We're ending a year, right? And we're coming in
Yes.
to the new year. Yeah, that's what I meant. Janus is depicted with two faces. Every time I say Janus, like I'm like picturing somebody from like The
Think of Friends.
Office that you work with. What? Who?
I was thinking of Janice from Friends. Remember Janice, who's
Oh,
little Santa?
yeah. Yeah, that's like what I'm picturing somebody kind of annoying.
Yeah. Okay, like because my mother-in-law's name is Janice.
Oh, I'm so
No, no,
sorry.
no, I am totally joking. She will not listen to this, but I just think it's funny because I'm just like Scott's gonna be editing this and being like,
Scott,
"Hey."
I'm sorry. I'm sure your mother's great. Sure, she's
Yeah, and
very
she doesn't
lovely.
have that kind of voice, but I do know what you
You
mean.
know what I mean?
I
Like I'm
will.
just picturing Janice, like gossip queen around the office, like
Yes.
okay. All right. And Janice is depicted with two faces, one looking into the past and the other ability to see into the future. Okay.
Which is perfect for
Which
January, New Year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Because January is basically our doorway into the new year, and they talk about that on the website as well. It says the Romans often made promises to Janus and exchanged good wishes. So this is how New Year's resolutions kind of
Oh.
started to form, was because you're making wishes, or you're asking
Mhm.
Janus for a better new year.
Like a genie?
Yeah,
Janice the genie. There
Janus
we
the
go.
genie, three wishes. And then it sent me down. I'll just talk about New Year's resolutions and how they kind of evolved, because there is a bit of a really cool history, and they go as far back as to ancient times. So again, all from almanac.com, says that in 2000 BC, the Babylonians celebrated the new year during a 12-day festival called Akatu, starting with the vernal equinox, which is start of spring. So vernal equinox is the start of spring.
Yeah.
This was the start of the farming season to plant crops, crown a king, and make promises to pay their debts. So one common resolution was returning apparently borrowed farm equipment.
Okay.
Cool. So the Babylonian New Year was adopted by the ancient Romans, as was the tradition of resolutions. Okay, so the timing of this eventually shifted with the Julian calendar in 46 BC, which declared January 1st as the start of the new year. So that's interesting. So
So
January
what year was that it became the New Year?
46 BC.
Okay.
January was named for the two-faced Roman god Janus, again looking forward and looking backward as well. And yeah, they would often make promises and sacrifices for good behavior for the year ahead. Janus is also the guardian of gates and doors. He presided over the temple. I'm going to say he, but they.
Yeah.
They presided over the Temple of Peace, where the doors were opened only during wartime. So it was a place of safety where new beginnings and New Year's resolutions were formed. So this was kind of funny when I read this from the or I think this was also from the Almanac website. That New Year's revolutions were also in the Middle Ages, and medieval knights would renew their vow to. I don't know. I feel like there's some truth to this, but medieval knights would renew their vow to chivalry by placing their hands on a peacock.
Interesting.
I promise to be chivalrous on this peacock. So it was called the annual peacock vow. Would take place at the end of the year as a resolution to maintain their knightly values. It's really interesting. Just makes me think of that. Is it the Kesha song? I want to see your peacock.
Yeah, stop. No, that's why I was like, stop. I knew you were going where you were going. We always got to go there. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Gotta bring a little bit of humor in.
But not sorry. Let's all place our hand. Find some peacocks. Okay.
I have a peacock on my tree, actually. I have a little, like, yeah.
Well, Amy, make some New Year's resolutions there.
I will. I'll take it. I'll put it on my altar. I'll be like, peacock. This is my intention to be more chivalrous. However you say that word. None of us can say the word chivalrous. I don't know. Anyways, let's move.
Yeah. Okay. By the 17th century, New Year's resolutions were so common. I guess that they were finding some humor in it. And this is from a Boston newspaper in the 1813. So they were basically talking about how, you can do all of the stuff that you want in December, but in January, it's time to start fresh.
So like probably go out with a bang on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I personally lay in bed and, watch movies.
Yeah, I used to like to go out, and now I'm just like, let's just stay in and order food or like cook a nice meal, and that's it. So this article is kind of funny. It says, and yet I believe there are multitudes of people accustomed to receive, this is definitely not a Boston accent, but accustomed to receive injunctions of New Year's resolutions who will sin all the month of December with a serious determination of beginning the new year with new resolution and new behavior.
So just get all your sillies out in December.
It's so funny because this really reminds me of my future father-in-law, because literally he's like, I'll drink, I do a lot of stuff, then in January I go dry. I don't do anything. Like literally he's like, no coffee, no drinking, nothing committed. Until I guess the summer or something, and then he's like, then I go hard all up until December, and then I okay, well, I guess you have a bit of a balance. Yeah. And then as we go into the 1900s, where Protestant starts to come in, we have more of a religious or spiritual nature with our New Year's resolutions. So I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about our New Year's resolutions. Do we have any going into January? Do you have any traditions? And New Year's Eve that you do? Like, so for myself, New Year's Eve, what I like to do is, and I got this idea from a former colleague of mine, and what she used to do was, or maybe she still does it, but writing herself a letter each New Year's Eve of all the stuff that happened. So it's like a way of like self-reflection, of reflecting on 2022. And then she reads that card New Year's Eve, and then writes another one for the following new year about, things she hopes to accomplish, or, what worked, what didn't work, what kind of happened, which I thought was really cool. Really yeah. So I just was like, I'm going to adopt that because I really, really like doing that. So I don't know if our listeners have similar traditions. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, Amy?
No, I don't make New Year's resolutions to really. I used to.
Yeah.
And then by February, I'd be like, oh, I failed again, you know? So, like, no, I don't like, there are maybe like general goals, but I'm careful not to like put a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and make it a resolution. So, the last couple years, I have adopted um, spending the last couple weeks of December kind of coming up with a word.
Yes, I like that as well. Yeah.
So, I want to embody more of this
Yeah.
this year. So I actually don't have my 2023 word yet. Sorry, we are recording this in December of 2022. So at this point of recording, I do not have my word yet. Um, but I will tell you that my 2022 word was perseverance.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time just thinking about that. If I was feeling stuck or stalled, I just be like, I need to persevere. And that doesn't mean like pressuring yourself to do
No.
something that's not aligned. It's just kind of like maybe keeping the faith. I also been a big advocate of taking messy action. So like stepping out of like previous I recently kind of clicked together that um somebody that is a procrastinator, which I am, is it's often stems from just perfectionistic kind of tendencies.
Yeah.
um and like
Yeah.
and that's why it's being avoided, because it's like, well, I can't if I can't give 100%, then I'm just going to put it off. But I think part of the growth there in the lesson is that you can only do what you can do, right? So there's always more to learn, and there's always more to do. So like this perceived like perfection is
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
non-existent.
Yeah.
So for me, it has to do with like, I think I've talked about this before, like something that I've always is kind of hovered over me in my life, but especially since I have been my own business owner, is this concept of expertise, and how
Mm.
that has been the shadow, the rain cloud over my head for years,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
hold myself back. I procrastinate because I don't feel in my heart of hearts like that I'm an expert. So who am I? Who am
Mm-hmm.
I to
Mm-hmm.
have a
Mm-hmm.
podcast? Who am I to
Mm-hmm.
launch a course? Who am I to give people guidance?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's because I have this unattainable like expert,
Mm-hmm.
while also knowing that I'm constantly growing and getting better with each passing day. So like, you, if you're an expert today, like tomorrow you're better. So
Yeah.
like, how could you be an expert today? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just this like slippery slope. So I have just started my idea of perseverance is working through that and like doing it anyways,
Yeah. It's like being
without pressure,
present. Yeah.
being present in the moment and like going with it. So I've adopted the term like my, maybe this is my word actually, enthusiastic or enthusiasm. So I'm
Mm.
just an enthusiast now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert on all things, but I am certainly enthusiastic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And an enthusiastic person will bring the energy to it. And like you can feel when somebody loves what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I think that's a better goal. So for
Yes.
me, yeah,
Yes.
you know what? My 2023 is enthusiasm,
Mm-hmm.
enthusiastic, an enthusiast.
Enthusiast. I like it.
There you
I
go.
like it. I like it.
Everything I do, I'm going to be enthusiastic about.
Yeah.
There you go.
How would
What about
you
you? Sorry.
um hmm.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I
And
know.
that's
It's funny because I was
responsibility.
like, I wrote this up and I was like, I'm going to talk about New Year's resolutions. Do I have any? Like, no, I don't have any New Year's resolutions. I, but I really like that idea. Like for myself, like when I write that letter, it's more like each year is just an opportunity to be self-reflective of like, what did you learn?
To be more you.
To be, yes, exactly. To just like be, to just be, because sometimes that is enough.
So it's like a check-in as well. I feel like this is a check-in from spirit for our listeners. As you're making these goals, as you're doing all the self-reflection, be mindful about why behind the goal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it coming from a place of this allows me to be more me,
Yeah.
or this,
Yeah.
lends
Yes.
itself to that? Or are you trying to be like someone else, or the
Mm-hmm.
status quo, or what you think you
You
should do?
should be. Yes.
That's, I think, important check in.
Very, 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 very true. Yeah. Food for thought. Food
That's
for
why I
thought.
put them up in the resolutions of like, "I wanna lose 20 pounds this year."
No, and it
Like
yeah.
like, but who do I why? Why do I want to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So if you
I
s
really feel like New Year's resolutions have changed so much, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like they're definitely as we move through the year or as we move through this Aquarius age or going into, um that shift, I really feel like it's become yeah, more about the self and your
yeah.
self-worth as a
Well, there's that 2027 energy too,
yeah.
right? Like more about what makes me happy. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
let's focus less on what we think should be and more of just like what feels what feels right. Does that make
And
sense?
it's a yeah, and it's important to distinguish that like this is not to say you shouldn't have goals and aspirations. You should just make
No.
sure that you check in with your why.
Yeah. Yeah.
This does this actually make me happy? Is this helping me become more me?
Mhm.
Like who I want to be, right? It's okay to have that like lofty, like this is who I want to be, but like why?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember that motivational clip that was floating around, I think, on the social media channels about I don't even know who the motivational speaker is, so I apologize. But she was talking about, what are your goals in life? And she goes, well, to be happy. And they're like, well, but yes, but like, what do you hope to achieve? And it goes forward, and she says to be
Wasn't that
happy.
Louise Hay? I
Is
think
it
that's
Louise
Louise
Hay?
Hay. I
Okay,
think so. I know exactly who you're talking about.
you know what?
I've seen that too. I can
Yeah,
hear her voice.
yeah,
Yeah,
to be happy. And it's just so right because what a concept, you tell people to be happy, they're like, what do you mean happy? But what are you
does
gonna
that mean?
do? Right? We focus so much emphasis on the do. And I always think back to an old classmate of mine years ago where we had this discussion about, we focus so much on the go, 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 do, productivity, right? Capitalism, all this stuff, right? Um, but nobody at your funeral is going to say, wow, you earned so much money, or they, they did that, they really, maybe they accomplished so much, like, sure, of course, but it's not going to be about how your work ethic was,
No.
right? You're going to be remembered for the person that you are. So why focus all on these stuff and just be happy, do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
New Year's resolution.
The doing. Like when we last week when we talked about the forecast, right?
Be
The
happy.
preparation and the shedding and the integrating, which is what we're in right now.
Mhm.
We're shedding. That's the old relic of the industrial age, which
Yes.
we're leaving, which is like
Yes.
do, build, right? Like that's what we
Yeah.
had to do,
Yeah.
but we don't have to do it anymore. And
Yeah.
it doesn't serve us anymore. So it just everything's going back to like, why am I doing this? Does this make me happy? So you're just gonna see more and more people
Hmm.
starting to question why they're doing things
Yeah.
and yeah, and changing it. Um,
Hmm.
I'm already seeing it.
Oh yeah.
I'm already seeing
I
it.
think COVID really helped. To be
I
honest, did something with that. Like we were forced to just kind of stay in.
I often think about COVID, and obviously from a lens of being affected by it, but not being affected by it like other people had, with tragedy and loss. So I want to be
Yeah.
sensitive about
Yeah.
that. But like, I do feel like it was a reset button.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, what? Okay, now that all those things are gone,
Yeah.
you can't do all those
Yeah.
things, and you just have to be.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah. And it's not to like diminish your experience or what happened
No,
because yes,
never.
there's tragedy, like it's awful,
Yeah,
it really was. And it is, we're still kind of in it, right?
uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah,
But I saw so many I that's when I changed careers. That's
yeah.
when um my partner changed careers too.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got started a new
yeah.
job during COVID. I went to school during COVID.
I'm just thinking too as you're talking. Like, what did I do? Well, I got like my business was a year old, but I did really go all in,
Yes.
right? It became my more focus.
Yes.
Okay, this is what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
I remember that.
I'm making a go of it.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be a little
It
like
was a big, yeah, yeah.
it was a thing. And then my husband, although he's just retired from a certain job that he was in for a really long time, the things started happening in 2020 as well,
Yes.
where the decision was made.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too, because we
Right?
all of us then, all four of us would have had those kind
Experiences.
of
And I
light
saw
bulb
so much of that.
so much.
A lot
Yeah.
of that. I think even like just to just because it's coming to my head, like Trevor Noah, you know, the host of
Yes.
the late show, the late
I think so.
tonight
Yeah.
show. Nope. Host
I don't know
of
either, but I know who you
the
mean.
daily the report or the oh my
Yes.
gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyways, but I think I'm pretty sure he was talking about that, how, you know, COVID forced a lot of us to go within, and he just kind of was like, I made that decision that I think I'm done. I've finished this chapter and I'm ready for the next step. So it really was that reset button, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I digress. That was really cool. So, you know, let us know what was your, do you have a New Year's resolution? Do you look at it similarly to Amy and I? What does that look like for you? Right? Really, really cool stuff. I love the way that also we see these shifts happening too with the resolution, New Year's resolution. We went from peacock to Protestant to okay. So here we go. Did you know, I've got a little fun fact about January. Did you know that January was not originally in the ancient Roman calendar? It was
No.
not. I think there were only 10 months. So what
Ooh.
2 months, Amy? My other quiz. I love doing these little quizzes. They're fun.
Okay.
What 2 months were not in the original Roman calendar?
So
Okay.
you've already told us January wasn't, right?
January wasn't. Yeah.
So one more.
So we got one more. Was it A, December and January? B, April and January? C, February and January? Or D, March and January? A lot of options here. We've got December, April,
I-
February, and March.
I've got two in my mind, so it's interesting.
Maybe the ancients flip-flopped and they were like, which month do we
Which
need?
one? I don't know. Like before you started chatting, my mind was like, I think it's February. But then when you said April, I went, oh, so I don't know if it's one of those two or if I'm totally off.
It's February.
Okay. It's fine. Yeah. So so that's an example for me too of like, I always say your intuition is probably the first thing that you hear before you start overthinking it.
Yes.
Right. So
Yep.
in my mind, I'm like January, February, I think it was those two. And then you started talking and I was like, you said December and I was like, no, April, something like,
Something clicked though.
and then you said February again. And I was like, well, now I'm doubting myself. Right.
Yeah.
But it was February.
February.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, right? Because we've got
Mhm.
January and February. They're right next to each other. So
So is that why I've heard before that March used to be the new year? Or like,
yes.
yes. Okay.
Yes. So I have right here too that so yeah, January and February were not in the ancient calendar, as the winter months were considered dormant. Because
Okay.
of like agriculture, but in terms of also war. So that was a time where, you know, there was a stillness. It was a time of peace. You wouldn't necessarily start a war at that time.
Right.
And you have to think of your crops.
Yes.
And then 450 BC, the Roman calendar was 10 months beginning in March, which was Martius, due to the March equinox. And March was named Mars, the god of war, who was also an agricultural guardian, it says. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
Interesting.
Then we also, so we're going to I just have few little facts about January. January's full moon is called what? Do you know, Amy?
Buck?
No. You pulled a card on it on our last episode.
The wolf.
Yeah, wolf moon. January's full wolf moon probably has already occurred since this episode aired. It was Friday, January 6th at 6:09 p.m. Eastern time. And I think also, if I was reading right too on the Farmer's Almanac, that the moon is going to, or has had that this like what is it called, like optical illusion, that it's going to be further away just because of the way the Earth is positioned in the rotation, like how it's moving in space. So it's going to look
Cool.
teeny tiny.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Buckthorn, I think, is like in the fall then. I know
Yeah, I
there
think
is a
you're.
buckthorn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but that's January in a nutshell. I mean, it really just seems that depending on where you are in the world, it is a time of new beginnings. Not only just to reflect on the past, but to look forward to the future. So yeah, and we already just kind of talked about this. And it's funny because you were mentioning about words, and I was going to ask, what in a word or three do you hope January 2023 will be? And you put enthusiastic.
Enthusiasm. Yeah, I think that's my like whole year
Whole year.
umbrella,
Yeah.
like goal.
What do you think? Oh, what do you? Yeah. What do you think it's going to look like for you?
For January.
Yeah.
The first word that came to my mind was stillness. So I think it's going to be kind of slow in some way. I'm hoping that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something magical about January. I know that we're like the light is returning a little bit every day now that the winter solstice has occurred. And there's just something magical about that time, as the sun is starting to go down in January. I don't know. I just feel cozy and snuggly, and I love this is a perfect segue for another episode that's coming up in the future, all about hygge, which is
I
the
want to say
cozy,
for that. Yeah.
the art of cozy living and how we can bring more of that into our lives. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, January. I hope it's still. I hope I have time I hope I'm mindful in January. I hope I'm present in January. I hope that there's lots of reading time and game nights and cozy suppers. Like I always
Yeah.
think of like soup and like I don't know, just like
Warm.
comfort
Like that's what
food.
I'm looking at.
Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Warmth.
like those things restore me. So I've learned to love January because although there's like, what, it's funny because I've learned to love January a little bit as I've lessened my expectations around like doing, goal.
Yeah.
Let's go hard at it at the gym. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people are like that in January, and I'm like, I'm going to do a slow and steady start to the year so that when that energy picks up, like we see it will in the spring this year, I'm ready for it, like I'm good for it. I've
Yeah.
had some clarity. I've got some aha moments. I know what action I need to take.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I'm hoping
Exactly.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you?
Warmth.
Warmth.
Yeah.
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 That's cozy, right? Like
Cozy
that's what I was
feeling.
just movie nights,
Yeah. Like it's been
early
so
bedtime.
busy. Like let's
Yeah.
just slow down.
We need it after December and the energy of December too. Like
It's a lot.
we really need it. I don't know. It's kind of like that energy of like what came up last month where you given the example about just needing to take the action on something. It's like, well, what if we just focus and channel our energy into being still, right? Or going within or being present. And that was the goal rather than like, oh my God, like, like I don't think energetically it's even right for us to do that
Yeah,
in
I agree.
January.
Yeah.
And then you think about historically, like what January wasn't even a calendar month because everybody just hibernated.
Yes.
Like we still ourselves are still like we're still that ancestor of ours. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
Mental
just about
health.
I'm going to intentionally be mindful and seek cozy times and yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
enjoy
Maybe
it, right? For what it
if you
is.
want to take action or like make a plan, it's like, okay, I'm going to plan out every Friday night movie in January.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right? What are we watching each Friday?
That's actually really fun. I want to do
What are
that.
we having for dinner? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what game are we playing? There. I've made a plan.
Good.
I've taken some action and it's for my own well-being.
How do you like them apples? New Year's
Yeah,
resolution,
I like that.
peacocks.
Right? I'll see you later. You know what's funny?
I
I'll
want
tell
this
you.
episode to be titled Peacock.
Do you? The January peacock. I don't know. Something. It's funny because I want to tell you a quick little funny
Please.
peacock thing. So it's funny because a lot of now symbolically birds mean a lot to me,
Mhm.
and I'm not as fearful, but I spent my whole life being fearful of birds.
I know a lot of people that are actually afraid of birds.
Anything with a beak and wings are like, "Ooh, no." It all stems back from the very early in my life going to a pet store with my grandfather and there being a huge parrot that like lived in the pet store and
Oh.
it was out of its cage and it was flying all around and it had big, huge wingspan, right? So as it swooped, you could hear the like with the wings.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die by parrot. Like he's gonna peck my eyes out. And so I don't know, it just instilled something. Maybe there's a past life memory. But long
Maybe
story
you were in the
short,
movie Birds.
maybe. Long story short, when I was a new mom with our first baby, we went to like a wildlife park and we were walking like on a trail or whatever, and there's this huge peacock that like lives in the wildlife park. And it was on the other side of like a rope kind of barrier.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
just a
my
rope.
and
Okay.
it's just a rope, right? And so Scott is like, oh, Amy, that peacock's eyeing you. And I'm like, you be quiet, you stop. Don't even encourage, like, don't
Ah,
even send it any
don't
signals, right?
do it.
The peacock, I don't remember if it went over the fence or under the rope, but it came towards me, like it sensed my fear, and I took off running and I left the stroller. And so to this day, my husband's always like, "You remember that time you left our newborn child
To
on the
die.
side of the trail because a peacock was chasing you?" I was like, "Oh, that elusive peacock."
That's so funny.
I was just like, "Get away from me! Like, why are you safe?
Yeah.
You."
You did fight or flight, and
It was fight or flight. I'm like, "See ya." Like,
bye,
all right,
baby.
this is your
You're
baby
gonna
now.
have to defend yourselves. I'm out of here. I'm.
Not my finest moment, but like seriously, I was just like, what? It was literally like it was charging. Like it had some oomph in its step, right? It
Oh,
was
that's terrifying. And they can get aggressive.
yeah. I was almost like, oh my God. Like I don't know if she felt threatened.
Or you
I,
just
I
had to
maybe
stare. You know
I don't
what it
even
could
know.
be? Because sometimes this is with cats too, that if you stare at a cat, they think
They
you're
they think you're
coming.
being aggressive.
You
Yeah.
think you're being aggressive. So that's why they say to blink, to show that like it's okay. We're good. They say to blink because then it shows
I
that
do that
like
to my cat
we're
because
safe.
Sunny. We've seen Sunny before. Sunny always sleeps on a chair over here. He's not here right now. He made his appearance in the last episode.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, but I just look at him sometimes and I'm like,
Yeah.
I always think that means I love you. So I'll be like, oh, and I'll slow blink at him because he does the same thing back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
you spiky that.
it's like a safety thing. It's like it's good.
It's like, okay, you're
We're
good.
good.
I feel comfortable enough to close my eyes for two
Yes, that's
seconds
what it
around
is.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's a trust. Yeah.
it's a trust thing. Yeah.
So
Well,
could be
thank
that.
you, Erin.
No.
That was
Oh,
fabulous and
yeah.
quite interesting. Please don't come after us if your name is Janice. We love you so much.
You're probably amazing. Maybe a bit of a gossip queen, but nobody's judging you.
Nobody's
Janice.
judging. Keeping you proud as a peacock. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.